Hello and welcome to the punchline. What are we doing today? Hello and welcome to the punchline. I'm your comic strip critic, and we're still in the middle of Feline Month. Boy, oh boy, I bet you're all looking forward to this one, aren't you? If there's one single comic that I've made sure to insult as much as possible during my time running the punchline, it'd be Garfield. Unlike some other cartoons I read, it's hard to hit my berserk buttons any harder than this. Okay, I wasn't asking you to try! That you can trace their origins and the influences back to one very specific comic strip. No! Not making a full-length feature film like, oh, your day of reckoning is coming. You ripped off the most soulless, humorless, lifeless comic strip in existence! What am I doing again next week? I really loathe this comic. I don't really want to talk about it. But you know what? This is what I've chosen to do, so you know, I gotta do it at some point, right? I mean, everybody knows it. Everybody reads it. I managed to sit through The Born Loser and, you know, that terrible Funky Winkerbean story. I can probably make it through a dozen or so strips of Garfield, right? Jeez! Kill him with fire! Okay. I think that'll keep it down for a couple of minutes. Anyways, Garfield was spawned forth from the mind of Jim Davis in June of 1978. And I really don't think I need to tell you about the characters, because even someone living under a rock on Mars knows about them. There's Garfield, the lazy, gluttonous cat himself. There's Odie, who's a dumb dog. And there's John Arbuckle, a man who defies any and all attempts at anything modern and fashionable. And that's about it. What, you wanted the side characters? They're even more one-dimensional than the main three cast are, but, you know, alright, fine. Let's see. There's Liz, John's veterinarian girlfriend. There's Arlene, who's Garfield's girlfriend. There's John's family, who are also stereotypically redneck that even Larry the Cable Guy would be offended by them. There's Nermal, who's annoyingly cute, and, yeah, that's about it. What? You wanted more? That's it! That's all the characters, and that's as deep as their personality goes. I can't give you any more because there isn't any more. What else is there to talk about? Oh, right. That. Stop reminding me! Shut up! Yeah, I hate to say this, but it's been confirmed by the Guinness Book of World Records. Garfield is the most widely syndicated comic strip in the world. And more than that, it's also the most financially successful. It makes more money than the next two financially successful comic strips combined. I can't even begin to wrap my head around that statement, because Garfield does not deserve that level of fame and success. Why? Well, let's break it down and have a look. At long last, here are the words that you've been wanting to hear. This is Garfield. Still breathing, I see. I like to keep busy. Copy-pasted artwork is a very easy way for a comic to upset me, and Garfield is one of the biggest offenders, if not the biggest. Literally, the only difference in between these three panels is the inclusion of John. That's it. There's nothing on the table, no decorations on the wall or the background. It's a sign of utter laziness on a cartoonist's part. Oh, and the joke also blows massive chunks too. It's just Garfield being sarcastic. Ha ha, how hilarious. Look at how overjoyed and filled with laughter I am because of this wonderful comic. Prepare to be swatted, Bug. Go ahead, just don't sit on me. See, I said that because you're fat. No, don't explain the joke. It was halfway decent before you did that, and then you ruined it. Oh, and copy-pasted artwork again. Then again, I guess I can't really blame Jim Davis for the way his strip looks anymore. He doesn't even draw it these days. What am I talking about? Well, you see, Jim Davis is the head of a company called Paws Incorporated. His responsibilities include managing the business and merchandising of Garfield. But what does he do that's related to the production of the actual comic strip itself? Well, he works with a small team of writers to come up with some strip ideas, and he draws up a rough sketch and he sends it off to his design and illustration team. And that's it. But wait, there's more. According to a number of interviews conducted over the years, by Jim Davis's own admission, he usually carves about a week out of his schedule each month to come up with ideas for the next month for Garfield strips. Maybe just a couple of hours a day during that week. Think about that. He dedicates a very small portion of a week, and he thinks that's enough time to come up with ideas that readers will enjoy and find entertaining for his global comic strip. And this is the best kind of drivel that he can come up with. Welcome to Ask the Vet. Doctor, why don't cats fetch? Believe it or not, some cats do fetch. We call them dogs. This is the result of dedicating a week's worth of your time to come up with something halfway entertaining for your globally syndicated comic strip. Copy-pasted artwork of a cat snarking at his TV set. Brilliant. Brilliant. Bravo. You couldn't have done any better. Here's $1 billion a year. Why? Oh, and by the way, when was the last time you saw a wooden TV set that sat on the floor? Then again, given John Arbuckle's personal styles and fashions, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. That's pretty much all there is to say about Garfield. I mean, I could show you more strips, but there'd be no point to it. My commentary on them would be as copy-pasted as the fat cat himself. Alright, fine, I'll throw him a bone. Every once in a while, Jim Davis actually manages to run a quarter-decent strip. No, I meant quarter-decent. I'm only willing to give him the same amount of credit that he puts into the actual strip himself. Hey! Some of us like to climb that tree. I won't lie, this strip actually kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Mr. Davis, allow me to explain why this particular strip is actually kind of funny. No, we're not gonna need that. It's not gonna be that deep. Alright, fine. You see, this strip implies that a dog is peeing. The key word in that sentence is implies. See, a lot of humor is better when things are left to the imagination. Take The Far Side, for instance. It was so bizarre that all you could do was wonder what led up to those events, what kind of surreal world these characters lived in. The same can be said of Leo, a strip where the main character plays a game of poker with classic horror monsters. A person's own unique imagination is often the funniest thing to them. Invoking that will make your strip funnier as well. And yes, a little toilet humor doesn't hurt either. It's okay to be slightly risque from time to time. It sure works for plenty of other comic strips. A lot of the humor in these comes from their visual nature. First and foremost, comic strips are a visual medium. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, you should put a little effort into your artwork and make things look visually interesting and not copy-paste everything, you lazy hack! But I know why you're doing it. We all know why you're doing it. It's so that you can spend more time and effort on what really matters to you. And what is that thing?
Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
No joke, no exaggeration. I am not making any of this up. Merchandising is the entire reason why Garfield even exists. It's the reason why Jim Davis chose a cat for the main character of his comic strip. He's admitted it before in interviews, multiple times, without shame. He's proud of this fact. Interesting art, strong characters, funny jokes, good storylines? Who needs any of that stuff? We got other stuff to sell, and boy oh boy is there a whole lot of stuff to sell. Garfield comic collections, Garfield DVD releases of the Garfield TV shows, Garfield video games, Garfield TV shirts, Garfield toys, Garfield figurines, Garfield plushies, a Garfield ride at Kennywood, a Garfield Caribbean cruise, Garfield credit cards, and of course, Garfield movies. Oh geez, the Garfield movies. Way before I even entertained the thought of becoming the comic strip critic, I knew that these movies were gonna be horrendous, even as a 14-year-old. I mean, I feel sorry for Bill Murray, the poor guy who got suckered into voicing Garfield. He thought that the movie was being written by Joel Cohen because his name appeared in the credits. It wasn't until Bill Murray appeared in the voice recording studio and was halfway done with his lines that he realized it was a different guy with the same name as Joel Cohen. Well, hey, you know what? He at least got his revenge.
So do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe?
And now I'm getting mine. Garfield sucks. And it is the worst comic strip in existence. Worse than Hager the Horrible, worse than Funky Winkerbean, or Heathcliff, or The Boy Loser, or Shoe, or any other terrible strip that I have or ever will read. I hate Garfield. And yes, it is pretty much because of all the merchandising, but not in the way that you think. I don't hate merchandising in and of itself. Heck, I have a signed plushie doll of Larry the Croc from Pearls Before Swine, and I love this thing. I don't hate it just because it's popular. Zitz is popular, and I love Zitz. What I hate is the fact that such a lackluster and soulless thing is the most financially successful comic strip of all time because of the merchandising. The biggest moneymaker in comics should not have less personality and charm than Jabba the Hutt. Actually, this is pretty much how Jim Davis appears in my mind. I want to make this crystal clear. I do not have a problem with merchandising in and of itself. Just for the sake of argument here, Bill Watterson, please forgive me, let's say that Calvin and Hobbes was just as heavily merchandised as Garfield. It had several TV specials, movies, plushies, board games, the whole works. I wouldn't mind that nearly as much, because the core of the entire franchise, the comic strip itself, would still be good. But Garfield, if you strip away all the merchandising, all the Caribbean cruises and credit cards and plushies and TV specials, what you're left with is a rather forgettable strip with unlikable characters and terrible jokes. As a businessman and advertising executive, Jim Davis, I won't lie, he's a genius. As a cartoonist, he's a hack. I just don't get it. Why do people like Garfield? Anything that Garfield does, another comic does way better. You want a cynical, grouchy, mean-spirited cat? Read Get Fuzzy, which also has far, far superior artwork. You want to read snarky jokes and sarcasm? Read Retail. You know what? Read Retail anyway. That's a strip that seriously needs to become Dilbert-sized. Give it some love. You want a comic about a human and the orange-striped feline he lives with? Read Calvin and Hobbes again. A single week of Calvin and Hobbes has better artwork, better characters, funnier humor, and more thought in it than a year of Garfield comics. Call me crazy, but I just think that the most widespread and successful comic in history should at least attempt to be interesting. if nothing else. Garfield, you have the most massive audience, deepest money vaults, and biggest influence in the comics industry right now. Do something with it, please, because I can smell the stink of zombie strip coming off of you before your original creator has even abandoned ship. We don't have the same sense of humor, do we? No. No, we do not. Pull! Oh, that's the most satisfying thing that Garfield's ever done for me. Let's do it again. I'm your comic strip critic, and my day just got booked. Pull! 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 Oh, right. Next week, instead of a regular episode, I'll be doing the mailbag episode, so this is your last chance to ask me any questions about the show that you have. See you then.